Sometimes there just isn't going to be a whole lot to say about a game. Pizza Pop isn't bad, it's a perfectly acceptable action game for the Famicom. But it's also very slight. There's just not a whole lot to this one. The plot of the game is that a pizza delivery boy wants to buy a ring for his girlfriend, and he has a rival who's trying to stop them from getting together. Most of the stages in Pizza Pop are side-scrolling action. You hit A to jump, hit B to swing your paddle. Your paddle has an absolutely pitiful range, though. You can jump on top of enemies to stun them momentarily, but usually you have to use the paddle to get rid of them permanently. Assuming you want to get rid of them permanently. It's a lot easier to just bounce and move on. Your jump is pretty high in this game, and it's even higher when you bounce off of enemies. Sometimes you'll come across balloons, and if you pop these, an item will come out. Pizzas are worth points, hearts recover 1 health, and a picture of the delivery guy will get you an extra life. You start with 3 hearts and can get a maximum of 5, which is one of those easier said than done things. There are 7 very short stages in Pizza Pop, and each of them starts out with a call coming into the pizzeria for pizza, and then there's at least a little bit of variation. Sometimes you just walk to the right, sometimes you have to climb a structure, and very rarely you have to ride something. When you're riding, you tap right to accelerate and hit back to brake. If you hit a ramp when you're going full speed, you'll launch into the air, sometimes to collect items, and they'll always throw obstacles from behind you, so you have an opportunity to get out of the way. At the end of some of the stages there's a boss, and these tend to be a little more complicated. You'll have to figure out how you can hurt a boss, and then do it. So this first boss takes his hat off to throw at you, and that's when he's vulnerable to you jumping on his head. On the other hand, the second boss spins around forever unless you're down on that bottom area. And then you can hit him with your paddle when he stops for just a moment. The dog is vulnerable to both paddle and jumping, while for the final boss, you have to knock its attacks back into it. If you die at any point on a stage, then it's back to the very beginning. That includes if you die to an attack spawned by a boss after they've died. So, that was fun. You start out with 3 lives and 3 continues. But despite that, the game is super easy. I'm out of practice, and it took me about half an hour to beat it. At 2 points in the game, there's this bonus stage where you have to catch pizzas and then put them in the oven. The pizzas have to land on the platter that you're holding, and they'll stack up as you catch them. And then you go over to the oven and hit B to drop them in. Pizza Pop seems to be pretty well regarded in Japan. I even found a couple of people who cited it as their favorite Famicom game. I wouldn't go that far, but I do think Pizza Pop really represents the new baseline standard for Famicom. In 1992, your game has to be at least this good for it to be acceptable. Unfortunately, there are several flaws with Pizza Pop. The first stage, for example, is by far the worst level of the game. It's just flat and you occasionally hop over a pillar. And the boss for the first stage is just dropping a few regular enemies on you. But once you get past that, the game opens up a bit and it becomes pretty fun. Still, if you skipped it or you haven't played it before, you're not really missing anything by not playing Pizza Pop. There's just not enough here to really get enthusiastic about it.